Hey everyone, thanks for having me. Chi Miigwech, Doug, and to the whole Midwest Renewable Energy Society for allowing me to be on the presentation this week for you guys. Appreciate it. Um, and I really just appreciate all the work you've done in the state of Minnesota, Doug, and the MRES and all of you pioneers for putting together this platform for the rest of us to come up and really try to push it forward. And I think that that's really what I'm trying to do, and I hope that I do you guys proud, and I continue on with all the great work that you guys started for all these years here. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done for the environment and for the whole state of Minnesota. Um, yeah, so the presentation and I guess the information that I want to talk about this week is around tribal energy sovereignty. And oh, go ahead. Oh, and also too, I also want to talk about the kind of the different basically obstacles that we've been facing. And then I think I want to also offer some solutions to this too. But the first thing is renewable energy in tribal country is, especially in tribal nations, has just been uh, just coming, and it's really how can I say this? It's really catching wind around all across the country. And so you've got the Navajo Nation that I saw just put up a megawatt of solar. You've got different tribal nations around the country that are putting up different systems, and it's been really exciting. The second budget line item for the Department of the Interior coming up here is tribal energy sovereignty, and how can we put more money into the building of these systems. And I think that along with the federal support and along with the state support, we're really going to be able to make some inroads here. Just recently, Representative Jamie Becker Finn, House File 4294, just recommended that the Department of Commerce be required to assist in a tribal advocacy council on renewable energy for the 11 federally recognized tribes in the state of Minnesota. Now that's exciting to me because that means that if we can go ahead and get the state and get the tribes together, working together to help establish these energy companies on tribal lands, we're really going to make a lot of inroads and move forward with this. I believe I saw a statistic that there was upwards of about $8 billion up here in the Midwest that the tribal casinos bring into the local communities. Now, if that's the case, I look at that and I think to myself, well, imagine if we were able to create our own energy companies in our own tribes, and imagine the entrepreneurial opportunities that will come about that. And so that's what's really exciting about this, is that these projects are not only going to attack a lot of the needs that the tribal communities are in need of, but they're really going to provide jobs, provide purpose, really give the community something to do. And when I think about that, I really do think about, how we don't have generational wealth. We don't have generational wealth that's being passed down our homes are in held in trust. The land is held in trust. And so, the next big thing that I think we can do is we can go ahead and we can create our own companies, our own little jobs for, in the community. So really sprout up an entrepreneurial opportunity. And for that, we need a power source. We need a power source. And that's where having a renewable energy / power company here, in the tribal community really works. Now, the one that I'm specifically working on, and this is the one that we're doing in Red Lake, and that is Red Lake Power and Water is what we're trying to work on. And doing so, my personal belief is that that water is a human right. Everyone should be entitled to clean water. The other part about this is everybody should be entitled to clean energy and clean water. And I think when we look around the country and we look at the way our water system is, we see that is also in a very stressful manner. Not only is our electric grid, but also our water. And I really do believe that the community needs to be controlling that. And so one of the things that we're doing in this whole process is, also putting together a advocacy, a community, a council, so to speak, a committee that will be the first part of the Red Lake Power and Water. So, run by the community. And what I hope for this to be, everyone, is I hope that this is and could be a model for other communities to follow, not only tribal communities, but other communities to follow, because I really do believe that in the future, we're not only going to have problems with our energy system, and this is my whole thing, that we need distributed energy systems, but because of the erratic weather patterns that we're going to be seeing, 27 tornadoes down south the other day. But I also believe that we're going to be seeing, problems with our water too. And we haven't really, we're starting to see that now in our lakes. We see the algae, we see the green, the algae and how it's very toxic to be in there. And I really think that we need to really start focusing on that. I think Flint was kind of put everybody's radar on the toxins of our water system. But I think even before that, you look all around the country, we have poor water. And so I think that as we do this and we put this together and we really show how the community can run their own power and water, I think that this can really be a model for other communities to follow and to look at and see how we're doing this. And I also want to say too that one of the important things about obviously doing a project like this is you've got to have buy-in from the community. You've got to have buy-in from the local politicians, so to speak. And that's something that we have in Red Lake right now. We have buy-in from the tribal council. We've got buy-in from the chairman and the tribal attorney. And so they're really on board with what we're trying to do there. And that's really exciting. With that, can we now really deliver on hopefully what we've been talking about and how we're trying to put this together. But that is basically the kind of thing that we're trying to do in Red Lake. And off of that too, so there's another aspect of this. There's so many connected parts to this project, but off of that, then we're now talking about how do we create entrepreneurial opportunities for the community. Now we know that running a water company, running an electric company, this is a very, you got to have some education to do this. And I remember an elder saying to me one time, this must have been about 5 or 6 years ago, and we were building our college up there. And she says, what good is this college going to be for the community if the kids can't stay here in the community and have jobs? And I remember her saying that, and I thought to myself, that is exactly right, because we've got to create opportunities for the community members to stay here and to to use their skills for the community. And so that always perplexed me. And I was thinking to myself, how could I make this happen? And that's when I really got involved with renewable energy. And I really started seeing the advances of how solar was making, scale of cost was coming down. I mean, just the advancements that renewable energy has made within the last 5 to 10 years has been incredible. And, you know, that's the eureka. That's the moment that I thought this can really happen. And the price of storage is coming down. I just thought if we could put all these things together, you know, we could essentially create our own energy company that could create these opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities. And you know, when you're talking about a community that the median income is $9,000, $10,000, you know, something like this could really be a game changer. I think we sent probably about $30 million off the reservation. I thought, well, what if we could cut that in half with 15 million and put 15 million back into our community? What would that look like? And what would that be able to do for the tribal members and for the community as a whole? And then I started looking at our health disparities. And then I started seeing I started looking at, you know, the problems we have with cancer, the problems that we're having health-wise. And I thought to myself, we've got bad water. We've got terrible water. And I thought, then I start looking at the desalination solar plants out in the Middle East. And I was looking at how that solar is cleaning that water. And we were looking, and me and Ralph we were actually over by the water tower, and Ralph was looking at the water tower and how we were going to put the solar panels on to help power the water tower. And I was like, Ralph, we need to put water a part of this project. This needs to be water a part, because the water is really going to help change the health impact of this community when they got clean water. And that's something that we've been missing in Red Lake. And so as I've been talking to my cousins and friends, and I've asked them about, you know, what do you think about the water there? And obviously there's like, oh my God, it's terrible. You know, well, we get our water in Bemidji and we just drive it home. And, you know, what if we could just have our own watering station, kind of like the Schmidt Brewery or the Stroh's Brewery on the east side of St. Paul? That's kind of what I was thinking about, and putting that together. And then I found out that the Shakopee Midwacaton community has the cleanest water system in the state of Minnesota. And I thought to myself, right there, there's what we copy right there. And that's how we do this. And so putting all this together now has really brought me down to, okay, if we're all moving in this direction, what are the things that we're missing? And this is where a partnership with the Science Museum grown out of. And we've been talking about a K-12 curriculum for the kids, and how do we bring the kids along with this? And one of the things about the kids is that, you know, how do we get them to be a part of all of this? And I don't want to sound like PJ Fleck here from the Minnesota Gophers, but, you know, I started thinking to myself, okay, if I have everybody moving in one direction, that means then the disparities are going to start falling to the wayside. And this direction is towards renewable energy, towards the environment. And if everyone is doing that, then what my hope is that the disparities will fall to the wayside. And so that was the whole idea about working with the Science Museum of Minnesota and helping putting together this curriculum. So we're just now starting to work on this. The kids have really been interested in exactly how things are flowing, and what is solar, how is this going to be in our community. And, you know, that's always been something that's been a part of our culture, is that anything that we do, we need to bring the kids along with us, or they are the future. We only live for them. And I just want to just tell you a quick thing. When we were installing the solar system on top of the Red Lake Government Center, the kids were coming by and they were asking all these questions, and I was asking the kids not to, be by the materials. And one of the guys came over and told me, he says, Bob, he goes, we have to bring the kids along with us. We have to talk to them and tell them what this is all about, because this is their future and they're going to be running this someday. And it just dawned on me, and everything clicked right there. And that's when I really started thinking about how do we bring together and put together a curriculum where the kids can really be a part of this. And so that's how all that got going and how that got put together. And that's something that we're working with the Science Museum of Minnesota with right now. So that's been exciting. The other part of this now is, how do we do a workforce development? How do we get the community involved around workforce development and being a part of this? Now, we receive our funds from the federal government. That comes through, drops right into the tribal the tribal work program. And as I was looking at this, and then I was thinking to myself, how can this also be a part of the local community outside of Red Lake? I think we have this notion, and this is also in a tribal perspective too, but there's these invisible borders that we just can't go through. And as I was talking to the executive director of the Oshkosh-Tata, the Workforce Development Center in Red Lake, and tell him about all these things, and he was like, what I want to do, Bob, he says, I want to be able to make the Oshkosh-Tata, the New Beginnings, the Workforce Development Center, as the workforce development renewable energy center for the upper north. So this will be a training center where everybody can come to. And I just thought about that, and I was like, that is so smart. And so as we were talking about this even more, I started to realize, okay, so if we're going to do that, then we're going to have to, get some other people to help us with this, because I know that being in this industry, that this thing moves every day. There's something new that's coming out. And so there was this opportunity to partner with the Energy Transition Lab with Ellen Anderson and the University of Minnesota. And she had some grants from the LCCMR to do some battery projects. And they chose Red Lake to be one of them. And the interesting thing about this is, now that we're talking about installing this flow battery in Red Lake, we had about 30 hours, I think, at the government center last year of time that there was no energy coming into, or that there was these intermediate cutoffs. And so this is also going to be proved as a really good test case for this battery and how it works, especially in northern Minnesota. And if you know where the government center is, it's right off of the lake, which is basically has its own environment. You can drive 10 miles away, and it can be 100 degrees and go 10 miles right to the lake, and it'd be 60 degrees and you need a coat. That lake is that big, and it has that type of environment around there. So putting in this battery in the government center now is really going to provide some really good data for the University of Minnesota Energy Transition Lab to really see exactly how they perform. And my hope is that by doing that, we can get more investment around storage, especially up in the Northland, because the environment is so extreme at times. It could be 50 below, and then it could be 110 degrees. I mean, it goes from one end to the next. So that's kind of my hope there. And not only that though, but the community can also learn from it. This is new technology, and this technology is going to be able to go ahead and allow for the community to study and learn from this battery system. And so that's what's really exciting is, these people didn't know anything about solar, and all of a sudden now here in Red Lake, now we're talking about, okay, how do we work with flow batteries? How do we work with these solar panels? How do we work with a microgrid? How do we put all this together? And so, that's what's really exciting, and that's what's happening in Red Lake. And my hope is that as we go further, and I'm documenting all of this, I've got tons of notes on this stuff. And what I'm hoping for is that this then can be kind of a template, like I said, for other tribes and other communities to follow. So that's basically that project Red Lake in a nutshell. But this is something that is happening throughout the United States and different tribal nations. They're all looking at this project, but they're also doing their own things around this. And I really do believe that I've always said that if we can get all the tribal nations in the United States right now to sign on to the Paris Climate Treaty Agreement while the United States is backing out. I just really feel like this is one of those opportunities that, we can't take back the land back physically with an army, but we can take back this land morally. And this is the time for tribal nations to do that. And that is kind of one of my hopes around all this and doing the things that I'm doing. But with that, I think what I should do here is I should just quickly go over the Red Lake project real quick. We have a slideshow, and we can share the slideshow with all of you. This slideshow right here was one that I did out at the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Oil and Gas Conference in the middle of the Bakken oil field. I was the only solar renewable energy guy giving a presentation on renewable energy. But I want to say real quickly to everyone that as I gave this presentation, you should have seen all the oil and gas guys come up to me afterward and take my card and were giving me 20 questions about this, because they know that their business model is over and they know that this is happening. And so they were just giving me like so many questions, but I must have seen about 50 Halliburton trucks, so it was pretty incredible. But so this is what I'm going to show you real quick. And basically it's just a rundown on the Red Lake Solar Project. So Rich, do you want to go ahead and put that on the screen there? I think I talked a little bit longer than I was supposed to there. Sorry about that. And then people, please, if you've got questions that you want to ask me specifically, please get them together and then I'll be able to answer them here too. So, okay, so just real quickly, right here is this was originally kind of why the project got started too and got talked about, was our fishery. Our oldest business in Red Lake is the Red Lake fishery. It's over 100 years old. And what we saw a high concentration of mercury in our walleye. The walleye is a very important fish to the band members up there. It's considered like, I guess, suppose steak would be to other people, but walleye is very important to us. And we just saw that the walleye was really in kind of, it wasn't, it just had a really high mercury content. And so we were like, where's this coming from? Where's this problem coming from? So, so we really wanted to do something about this. And that's really where the whole renewable energy part got kind of talked about, because we realized that this mercury was being dropped in by the plants out there in Montana and obviously the fracking out there in North Dakota. Go ahead, you go to the next one. Yes, there you go. The Red Lake Nation replaced all the electric energy with their entire nation using uses from coal now and in the future with solar energy. Yeah, so, one of the things that I think that, and this was something that, Daryl Bugger and Joel and Ralph were kind of thinking about how do we put this all together, and this is kind of one of the vision statements that they put together here. And go to the next one, yeah. So yeah, strategy for the solar development, offset some of the energy use with the rooftop, casinos, school buildings, major buildings, solar storage, and community development with green energy. Now, one of the things here I want to just mention real quick is that we're going to start with the 200 kilowatt system on the Oshkosh-Mejitata building next, and that will be that's basically the Workforce Development Center. So we'll be using community members there. We'll be doing some on-the-job training, showing them how all this works. And I got to be honest with you, these guys really get excited about the solar up there. So I'm really excited to because I get really excited when they're excited, and it just makes me so proud to look over the rooftop and see like 15 native guys working on solar. And it just makes me so proud, and I just get the biggest smile on my face now because of that. But go ahead, next one. And we will be, after this one, we'll be doing one of the schools, is what we're looking at, one of the schools here to do next. So, but yes, install solar main buildings of Red Lake, reduce dependence on coal, reduce long-term operating expenses, and familiarize the community with solar. So, you know, those were some of the goals of phase one, and I think we've accomplished a lot of those things, but obviously we still have a long way to go. Another thing about this too, people, is one thing I want to also understand too is we're already into food sovereignty too. So they have like 2 big football fields of greenhouses up there where they're growing their own food. So this whole idea of energy sovereignty, food sovereignty, is really exciting, because it's really great to see the tribe really moving in this direction, and all tribes actually moving in this direction. So that's pretty exciting. Go ahead. Next one. Yes, so this was when the system was commissioned, produced 25% of the building electricity installed by Solar Bear. Solar Bear in Ojibwe is pronounced Gizi Samakwa, so that is how we pronounce it in Ojibwe. The bear part comes from my mom's clan. Obviously, I love mom, so I had to give recognition to my mom there. And solar, we don't have a word for solar in Ojibwe, but we have one for sun, and that's Gizis. But yeah, mostly members of, like I said, there was probably about 10 tribal members that worked on this project. So go to the next one. Community development, yep, workforce development, K to 12, in higher education, and as we go forward and stuff, this gets more and more in depth. One of the things too on this too is how do we start now creating this idea or this plan for the first, I guess you could say, committee or board that would oversee the Red Lake Power and Water. Go ahead, next one. So this is just a timeline. That's all this is. And like I said, you guys can all have a copy of this. Go to the next one. Questions to be answered. Can we work with local utilities? How much energy do the buildings use? What can solar deliver? Go ahead. Go to the next one. Utility equipments, roof stable. That's something that Ralph always talks about. He talks about how incredible the roofs are, because of, you know, they're already equipped for solar. So he always mentions that when he does his presentations. But yeah, the engineering of the roofs are all equipped for solar. So I always thought that was pretty cool too. Go ahead, go to the next one. Find out, can the electric co-op take the solar power back? Yeah, it's all behind the meter right now. So that's what that one is, what we're talking about here. And all the solar power must stay at the buildings. And obviously we can use this energy. Go ahead, next one. Here you go. Ralph likes to call this the duck. And obviously this is looking at storage. We are in the, in Minnesota, we call it the loon. But as you see, if we can go ahead, how do we transfer this, this blue shape over here? And that obviously that's for storage. Go ahead, next one. Here you go. Yeah, this is just the college and their usage. Go to the next one. Once again, yep, with low solar for the day. Go to the next one. And there's the part about adding storage into these projects. Go to the next one. Here you go. There's the load curve for the Red Lake Casino. Go to the next one. And this is just a breakdown of the rooftops, the energy usage, the load profile, space, and how many kilowatts you know it's going to be using. Now this isn't going to be in this particular. This is all changed now, but these are the plans of the buildings that we plan on doing. So go to the next one. Oh, that's the same one. I'm sorry. That's the same slide. Good. 2 stages of phase one. Yeah, and this has all changed actually. So go to the next one. There's actually a picture of the Red Lake Government Center. That's the one that we did. People love that eagle. McGizzy. People love the eagle. So it is actually an incredible looking building. But yeah, go to the next one. That's the college. Go to the next one. And that there is the casino. Go to the next one. That's the Red Lake Casino. Sorry. That is the Thief River Falls Casino. That's how that looks. Go to the next one. And there is the big, that is a whole heck of a lot of solar there. That's about 5 megawatts right there. No, yeah, was it 5 megawatts? No, 2 megawatts, I believe it was. But that is, that's on the list too. Go to the next one. And this land right here in Thief River Falls, this is already land that the tribe already owns. So just an FYI on that. Go to the next one. And obviously this is just a scope, how we would do this. And this is just, obviously, but this isn't the way that we're gonna be doing these in this order now. The order has changed. Go to the next one. And the finance model, so now what we've got is we've been doing this crowdsourcing model through Lake Superior Solar Finance, and we've been doing some crowdsourcing there. But now I've created a nonprofit called Native Sun, so you can go to it, www.nativesun.org. I'm still finishing the website on that, but what that nonprofit there is to also be able to go after and look for opportunities to apply for Department of Energy grants and other grants that we can go ahead and help build this project. That's pretty exciting too. Yeah, the ownership will flip to Red Lake in the 7th year, so it's basically a power purchase agreement, and but we must also finance energy storage also. So next one. And if you need to contact myself, you can get a hold of me right here. Also, there's Ralph's information. And I would suggest too that if anybody wanted to invest in the project, to give Ralph a call or to contact him. I'm sorry, don't call him. Actually, send him an email. And don't want like a bunch of people calling him. But you send him an email, and he can go ahead and walk you through the process of, because there's a way to walk through this crowd vesting model, and it hasn't been as easy as it should be, but those are the things that the kinks that we're working out in the system. So, but yeah, with that, let's see where are we at with time here. Okay, I did that pretty good. I was thinking that was going to be another 10 minutes. Is there any?
Looking great.
Yeah. Is there any questions from anybody that I could possibly answer about the project, or just in general, solar in tribal nations or what's going on? I've been actually lucky. I've been really lucky to, be in with the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals, ITIP, out of Northern Arizona. They got in contact with me, and so we've been really looking at projects throughout the country and kind of what's happening. And so they've been kind of keeping me up to date on everything that's been going on there. We were able to go out and do a training class out in Standing Rock, out in Bismarck Technical College, and do a solar class with those guys out there, and see a lot of the things that they're doing. And the really exciting thing about that is those tickets to that class, they're like 50 tickets. They went in like one day, and they were like 2 tribal members from each tribal nation of North, South, Montana, and I believe it was Wyoming, people were coming from. So that was really exciting to see that.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, Robert, we're getting some questions coming in. I'll just read them. They started kind of back as you were presenting, so I'll just start at the beginning, and we'll get caught up here. Catherine says she loves the idea of the joining the Paris Climate Accord. She says the U.S. might not be part of the Paris Climate Accord, but Native sovereign communities should be. We had a question about if the presentation will be available. Yes, we hope the recording works out and we can get it up on the website and YouTube channel. We have a comment from Anonymous who says, storing PV energy as electricity is good. Don't forget the PV energy for domestic hot water and storing energy as hot water also makes economic sense. I don't know who Anonymous is, or but you know, if you're welcome to add to that if you like.
Yeah, say Rich, real quickly. There's some other there are some other partnerships that that we're working on, and some a lot of this is around energy efficiency too. So yep, so to what his comment was, yep, absolutely, that's been mentioned, and that's been talked about. So yep. So
Hi, Chris.
Comment about that too. I'm just wondering, Robert, are you familiar with the program that Great River Energy uses with their water heaters, with their hot water heaters, where they have them distributed amongst a community, and those clients basically are all connected together, and their hot water heaters act like storage units and feed each other, and they only heat the hot water from like 11 to 3. Someone else here in the group may know more about this, but this is something we have at the Eco Experience, and it's always fascinated me. Now the utility, which would be you, actually would monitor or manage that, but they're using wind energy at night to heat that water from 11 to 3 in the morning.
yeah, before all this got started with this last group of guys that really start pushing the project forward in Red Lake, there was a feasibility study by a grad student out at Cal Berkeley. That was one of Professor Dan Kammen's students, Elklin, and he sent me this 200-page basic layout for Red Lake, and for a utility company, and he had hot water in there. He had wind. I mean, it was absolutely just incredible what the amount of work this guy put into this paper, and it was for his master's. But it mentioned a lot of that, and I still have that copy of that paper, and so I think that as we go forward, that's something that obviously we're going to be looking into, because what's really cool about this is we can create this, and we can kind of adjust it to how we need to do it. So that's what's really exciting about this, and that's just because we have buy-in from the local government, that we're able to do it like that. So I'm hoping to maybe explore some of those other options. But obviously wind and all that other stuff is something that we definitely have to consider to be a part of this. But the energy efficiency part, that all has to be a part of this too. So, but as we bring in these other partners too, that currently talking to, and they want to be a part of this, or be partners in this, I think that's something that we'll be looking at. So thanks, appreciate that.
That was a good question.
Robert, lead into the next question here. I'll get to you in a second, Doug. It's I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name right. C. Hatos. Would it be possible to also consider hydropower in Red Lake? With the developing technology, there are now small turbines that can be dropped in rivers and streams and operate without endangering the fish ecosystem. Would this be feasible in the Red Lake community as well? It could contribute to a microgrid system. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have outlets for, if you look at Red Lake and you look at the rivers that come out of Red Lake, and where they go, I mean, there's outlets there. So I think that's very possible. I know one of the main fishing spots in Red Lake is the dam, where everybody goes and fishes. But that's definitely possible, and I think that's something that we definitely should also look into too. But as we move forward, like I said, some of these other people that are coming into this and helping us with this project are really going to have probably some expertise in this, and that can really look and we can obviously do some feasibility studies on that. But yeah, that's a great great question. Thank you on that, sir. Whoever that was.
Yeah, and yeah, no, and if the questioner would like to add to that, you're welcome to unmute and speak up. Now,
Hi.
Doug, you had a comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, yes. First of all, my name is Umut. I'm using my friend's computer, so it shows as Sihat. I asked that question because I recently graduated from the University of Minnesota, and my father, we actually own a renewable energy business in Turkey. We do the electrical automation in hydropower plants, but we have many connections with turbine companies and everything. So I'm always intrigued with opportunities like this too, and I always thought if it would be feasible or possible to use river streams in Minnesota, because building a dam in Minnesota is not that ideal because you need some kind of elevation and everything. But now that some of the turbines in the market that's actually available to be built in small river streams and generate some kind of power, it's not too large, but once you put many turbines, you can actually come up to a good capacity. So I just didn't know about the landmark in Red Lake. If it's a possibility, I most certainly can follow up with you in the future. I got your email and everything. So
Yeah, please follow up with me and send me your information because this is something that obviously I've thought about, I've seen, but we're just getting up that first system, working down the project, putting things together, and that was really where I was at. But this is great information. So yeah, if you can send me your information, that would be great. I'd love to talk to you further offline.
Fantastic. Thank you. I would love to do that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Now, Doug, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, Robert, I was wondering on the storage side of things, how much storage are you guys going to be make available up there?
Well, this first battery is actually was actually supposed to be installed. I guess this is probably our time frame, but we, obviously, what's happening right now with the pandemic and everything, things get switched around. So I believe it is going to be installed in the fall, maybe early 2021 now. I know that that the university is working with their people to get that battery to us. The size of it, I just looked at an email here, and I don't know the size of the battery though. But I do know it's a flow battery, Doug.
Robert, do you know, is it a ground-mounted unit or a trailer-mounted? Because I understand some of those flow batteries are about the size of a semi-trailer.
Yep.
They're actually, you can move them around with a tractor.
Yep. I believe I thought it was a ground-mounted. Is the way, because we were looking at the areas in which we would put that into in the government center. So I believe it was ground mounted though, Doug.
Okay.
Right, and yeah, Pat also asked the same question. What's the size of the battery?
Oh boy, the size of the battery. I don't know offhand right now, guys. But I could get that to you. I know that we had some spec sheets that we were looking at for the battery, but I don't have the size of the battery right offhand right now. Sorry about that.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Well,
I do have a spec sheet in there somewhere, but I could also share that with you too, and you can send it out.
Yeah, that would be Pat who asked.
And I think, just real quickly too. Oh, I should say this though too, really quickly. I know that the University of Minnesota is going to have a spec sheet of the batteries for all three projects and kind of like a how-to guide. So I think they're handling that part of it so that they'll be sharing with the public.
Great.
Yeah. So so just look for that. That's in the transition lab. So Yep.
Oh, yeah, excellent. Okay. Next question's from Stacy Miller.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for your presentation, Robert. It was really interesting. I just had a few things. One, I wanted to applaud the possibility of the tribal nations signing the Paris Accord. It's pretty exciting. And also, I wondered if you're familiar with the Prairie Island Nation's interest in becoming energy independent. I believe that there's actually legislation being considered this session, and it looks like it might be one of the few things non-mission critical that might pass.
Yeah, that's exciting, isn't that? That's the whole net zero, the net zero deal going on there. Yeah, I hope that it passes. I'm super excited about that, and I hope that goes because that's an exciting project, and I'm just really hopeful that Jamie Becker Finn's House file for the setup for the advocacy of the 11 tribes and their possible with their own energy companies does go through, and the Department of Commerce helping with that. I mean, I think that's exciting. I just believe, guys, that this is just the future. This is where we just have to move. This is how we have to push society forward. I like what Roosevelt said. It's just taking hits at the ball. You know what I mean? Just taking swings, and if we just get a hit here, if we get a hit there, we just keep moving forward, and that's how we move society forward. So I think what the tribes are doing, and their hopes and their aspirations around this, and if we here in Minnesota can go ahead and help push them along, this really does set up for an opportunity for all the other states and all the other tribal nations to follow what we're doing. I really believe that that we here in Minnesota have great ideas, and we have great aspirations, and we've got a lot of good people, and I think that we're forward thinking, and I would really like us to lead in this area also for the tribes. So that's my hope. My hope with our politicians and the people of Minnesota to help push this forward, because it's a good thing. And as we do this is not only going to help the tribes, but it's going to help the surrounding communities too. And so we all know that we have to have there are things that we have to do for the rural communities too. So this is a really good thing I think for the entire state of Minnesota. But Stacy, also to your point about the tribes signing on to the Paris Climate Treaty Agreement, there was something that got put together by the Congressional Natives, Congressional Indian Caucus, I believe it was, and they signed on to We're Still In. But I was thinking more like, what if all tribal nations and their respective tribal chairmen and leaders all just basically said that we are still that signing on to the Paris Agreement, because we are the only group of people in the country that have this distinct relationship with the federal government. And I'm thinking that having all 575 tribal nations throughout the country saying that we're still in, and even though the United States is backing out, I think that would send a great message to the world too. So so that's my hope there. And so I always say that in all my speeches. I always talk about that and try to get that out there to at least start planting those seeds.
I like the vision. It's great.
Thank you.
Yes, and and Stacy, glad you're here with us too. That's nice to hear from you. And now let's see. Our next question is from Earl. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was wondering about for investing into the projects, what's the expected rate of return, and I know that it's sort of tangible right now for whenever the project starts, but what do you expect?
Yeah, so there are these rules about talking about this investment process, and I'm not I don't want to go over my little boundaries of this, but we have a like a prospectus that you can look at. Ralph has got that put together, and he's also got a tutorial on how to invest and what your rate of return will be when you will receive all of your money back, and how all that works right now. So I don't want to go over that, but I would direct you to the Lake Superior Solar Finance website, and they can go ahead, or you can go ahead there and you can look exactly how that is structured. Because I did know that the attorney did say to Ralph, and then Ralph told me obviously that we got to be very careful how we basically market that. We don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, of course. Like, unless you have a Series 7, you can't talk about investments.
Yeah.
I was curious. So what's the website again?
Lake Superior Solar Finance. And that's interesting, Earl, because I remember working for MRES Financial, and I think that was on my 7 and 63 exam. It was like, but that was one of the exam questions, I believe. So you can just go to the website and take a look at it. But thanks, Earl. Appreciate it. Good talking to you, bud. Next question.
Yeah, next question. Well, Chris has given us a few questions here. I'll read them so that I'll read them, and Chris can fill in additional things if she likes. First, what part of the project is working as a microgrid? Second question is, are you working with the Headwaters Science Center? They can be a great resource along with the college. And then the third question is there an opportunity for involving design students at Red Lake Nation College in developing interpretive graphics that tell the science stories throughout the project? And
Wow, that's a great. Could you save that one for me, Rich? Yeah, I really like that one. I say that because I'm really interested in trying to bring the kids along on this, and that's really, really important to me. And I felt like a real jerk at the time. I told the kids to get away from the equipment that day, and it really hurt my soul to say that. And then I heard from our chairman that our tribal chairman said that the kids were coming into his office and were giving him 20 questions about solar energy. And the chairman was like, I don't know. And so it just really showed that the kids are really interested in the solar energy and all the talk that's been going around about it. And I also heard from one of my other cousins that his kid wants to get in the solar industry, and so I'm thinking to myself, we might have ourselves a native Einstein around there, running around there somewhere, and that's the kid I got to reach. So,
I think that's great.
Yeah, so that really is a great question. So yeah, if you could save that for me and give that to me, I really like to follow up on that. But the Headwaters Science Center is something I'm not familiar with. But I will pass that along to the Science Museum of Minnesota. I'm sure they are, and they can look into that, because one of the things we're looking at is a book and a coloring book, and that was one of the things that we were looking at. So thank you for the question.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah. Next question. Yes.
It was related to that. The Headwaters Science Center, when I worked at the Science Museum for so many years, we worked with the Headwaters Science Center quite often, and we did some workshops up there, and they're only an hour away from Red Lake, and so they're in Bemidji. So they have, it's an opportunity to really do hands-on stuff right there, working with those people to prototype any interpretive interactives or things you might want to try as sort of art, or art and science installations throughout your project. But that's my bailiwick, so I'm interested in that.
Yeah, so Chris, so basically what it is, it's the Solar Cub program, and basically it's like the Berenstain Bear family, but it's the Solar Bear family, and they live in an igloo, right? And what they do is they have solar, they do energy efficiency projects, they do solar projects, they do gardening, and they do recycling, and they teach the kids on how to do it. But it's this polar bear family, right? and it's modeled after the solar bear, right? And it's their family, and they have these little kids, and they go out and they do all this stuff. And so that's what we're working on with the science.
I think that's the curriculum theme. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's the curriculum theme. Okay.
Yeah, and the bears basically teach the kids on how to do all this. And my hope is that the kids will look at this, and as they look to the future and they start dealing with climate change, they're not going to put their heads in the sand. They're going to sit there and say, the bears taught me how to deal with this, and I'm going to face it head on, and I'm going to do something about it. So that's my hope, and that's why that's where we're doing the solar cup thing. And so the Science Museum loved it. They thought, oh, this is a great idea. Let's figure this, how do we make this work? So that's where all this is coming from.
Great.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
What about the microgrid question? What part of the project is working as a microgrid?
Yeah, that's basically the whole part of Red Lake now. So now we're getting to a big overview now, and that's what we intend and we hope to create is the microgrid.
Okay.
And that will be the Red Lake power, and then part of that with the water tower and the water system and producing clean water to the Red Lake power and water. Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Robert.
Yes.
Another quick question. With all the things you're involved in, are you by chance involved in IPS's project at Little Earth in Minneapolis?
Yeah, so that started out a couple years ago. I went to the that was with Mayor Betsy Hodges's people. I went down to the EVAC meeting, and I just they were advocating for all these different projects, and I didn't see nothing going to South Minneapolis, and so I just raised my hand and said, what about Little Earth? What about South Minneapolis? We've got NBA, we've got Super Bowls, and we've got Final Fours coming to the city, but we're not doing nothing about, a Little Earth in South Minneapolis. And Mayor Betsy Hodges people came out to me afterwards and asked me what I thought. And then I got approached by the EVAC committee, asking me to be on the EVAC committee. And so it's been about a couple of years of advocating for that project over there. And then Lynn Hinkle and obviously Ralph, were like, hey, this is actually a really good thing. And then obviously the city too was like, hey, this is, this is something, but I really believe what pushed it over the edge was the encampment that helped, that was there. And that really shined a light on the community there. And so, yeah, that was a couple of years of me, talking to people and them just kind of whatever. But it's finally looking at coming about, and we're working on that right now. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's exciting, Doug. What's happening right now over there too?
Does that one include storage also?
Yes, it does. Yeah, and I don't want to go above my pay grade here, or say anything out of the realm here. But yeah, Lynn has really got a really good hold on that project, and he's the guy to talk to on that, and is doing a great job of quarterbacking that. So yeah.
Okay.
It's been really exciting to see, that whole thing come about and watch Lynn work too. So, I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, there's some great work being done and some fantastic people doing it. Now we're at a couple minutes after 7 here, so I know that there's a board meeting coming up that some people have to do. But Doug, do you think? Can we keep the conversation going a little if anyone has more questions, or how would you like to?
Yeah, let's go another 5 to 10 minutes and just see if there's other questions.
Okay.
Sure, I'll answer anything. So just point them out.
Rich, it looks like there's one from Bob Wall.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Bob, would you like to unmute?
Well, I saw the email and I was interested in solar. I live in North Branch, and I was particularly interested in the fact that the type of company that it was, and I was wondering if you provided service down here, if we were part of the geographic area. And it sounds like from the response, this is focused on the Red Lake community.
Yeah. So right now, Bob, Solar Bear is I'm strictly focusing in on the Red Lake Indian Reservation right now.
Okay, got it.
I'm ramping up, right?
Okay.
Move slow to move fast. This is one of the things that I've learned in my many trips with going up to Red Lake. But yeah, I slowly ramping up my company to work on the outside here. And
Okay.
one of the things is putting in for this. I got these venture capitalists that want to invest in Solar Bear now. So
yeah, sounds good.
This is something that I'm in talks with right now, and how we grow the company now. So, but specifically tribal lands is where my focus is at, and then it's obviously the Red Lake project.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Bob. Now, Barb Lundy has a question or two. Go ahead, Barb.
Hi. You said that there's mercury in your water, presumably in Red Lake itself. Do you think that really comes from burning coal out west?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I was just thinking about, when I was out there and I was looking at the flaring that was happening, and it's like 10 o'clock at night and it looks like it's daytime out there. And it just
well, the map that you showed had showed the density of mercury. But I think there was a big gap over the Dakotas, for example. It maybe could be shown again, but
yeah. Well, I was just thinking about the wind, the wind current, and how that carries, everything over. So,
do you think that Lake Superior is similarly contaminated with mercury?
I can't answer for Lake Superior. I just know that this was something that our DNR looked at, and this is what they came back with. And
I've been looking at the water situation in the Southwest for 30 or 40 years, and I think it's only a matter of time till they come to Lake Superior for water. It's the largest Great Lake.
Well, and that's why Barb, why I'm really passionate about creating this model, because I really do believe that communities need to run their own clean water and clean energy. And this is because I believe that if we continue to let local governments and corporations handle this, that we people are going to have the short end of the stick on this. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I really want to get this model done and prove it out, and everybody can see that this works, and this needs to be in every community.
Is there a way of removing mercury from municipal?
Yeah, I just do know that they do have the process of how they clean the water, the osmosis process, and that's getting really technical and out of my realm, but I do know that there's ways of cleaning the water. So yeah. So I'm sorry, Barb. I'm not too familiar how they do that, but just off the YouTube videos I've been watching.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you all for the.
Wait a minute, I have one more.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Sure.
I'm typing it. Okay, wait a minute. It doesn't want to spell microgrids. Okay. I was wondering if you're familiar with SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. Just when you were just talking about the importance of communities owning their own utilities, it's SMUD. And I looked on their website not too long ago, and they're just still at it, doing a really interesting job of experimenting. They were one of the first communities to just stud their community with electric hookups for EV cars, back when that was just starting. and they are experimenting with their portfolio, energy portfolio, trying different things, experimenting with flywheels and different kinds of storage. And basically they took over their utility and kicked out the nuclear power plant there. But I just wondered if you were familiar with them and thought maybe you could look into them. If you get in touch with folks there, you might learn something.
Yeah, no, I'm going to look into that. Thank you so much, Chris, because that's really interesting. And I wrote it down too, so I'm going to look into that. But
there may be, I'm sure there are others. I wish I knew more about municipal utilities.
Yeah, I was told to work with the U of M Design Center, and there was another group that I was told to work with, and how we start developing this. But that's something that if I can find different models that are working out there, that I definitely want to be able to look at and copy.
I think they have. I think when I looked at it recently, because it was just before the fires swarmed out there, but
Sure.
they closed this. But they have a visitor center too. And besides meeting with somebody, maybe you should just get a ticket and go out and check them out. I've heard they have a big visitor center that lets you really look at what they're doing there, but you might be able to talk to people behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's what I did with the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club flew me out, and I went and looked at a job training center out there that I thought we could use here in Minnesota. And then I went and looked at the idea for the Little Earth project. Actually, is a project that got done out in Oakland that was Grid Alternatives did that. So that's where that whole idea came from. Yep.
Interesting.
Well, I just want to thank you, Robert. We really appreciate you doing this presentation. It's been great, very informative and everything. And we definitely will be in touch. Like Rich said, hopefully this will be recorded and put up on our website. And MRES has a small gift of appreciation. We're going to be giving you a solar powered little battery unit for charging your cell phone if you need one. I'll get that to you. And
Quich, everyone.
Yeah. And then also just everyone stay in touch with our website, and we'll be having another good speaker next month. So thank you again, Robert.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.